People say betrayal comes like thunder, loud and sudden. But mine came like rain, soft at first, almost gentle, until I was drowning before I even knew it. My name is Daniel Carter, and for 15 years I believed I had everything a man could ask for. A loving wife, Sonia, who smiled like sunshine, a beautiful daughter, Mia, who filled our home with laughter. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Our evenings were simple, dinner together, a movie, sometimes a walk under the streetlights. Life felt steady, safe, but safety, I learned, can be the most dangerous illusion of all. It started small, changes so minor that I almost ignored them. Sonia began spending more time on her phone, scrolling through social media pages about self-love and woman energy. She talked about finding herself again, though I never knew she was lost. Mia, now 18, was her biggest supporter. She would say things like, "Mom, you need to do what makes you feel alive," or "You spent your whole life caring for others. It's time to care for yourself." At first, I smiled. I thought it was innocent mother-daughter bonding. But soon, their conversations started to sound different, sharper, like I was the problem they were trying to fix. Sometimes I'd walk into a room, and they'd go silent. Other times, they'd share secret smiles when I asked where they were going. Sonia began dressing up for yoga classes, though she'd never liked exercise before. I told myself not to worry. I told myself this was just a phase, that every marriage has cold seasons. But deep down, a quiet fear started whispering in my chest. Then one night, I heard Mia tell her mother, "You should do what makes you feel powerful, Mom. Don't let anyone, not even Dad, hold you back." That was the first time I felt something crack inside me. I didn't know it then, but that single sentence would destroy everything I thought was real. After that night, something changed in our home, something invisible but heavy, like smoke after a fire. Sonia was no longer the quiet, gentle woman I married. She became restless. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror longer than before, trying new hairstyles, makeup, perfumes. Her wardrobe filled with bright colors and tight dresses she never used to wear. When I asked her about it, she smiled and said, "A woman should always feel beautiful, Daniel. I'm just taking care of myself." Her words sounded innocent, but her eyes told another story. She started going out more, meetings, yoga classes, self-growth workshops. Each time she left, I told myself to trust her, but the smell of her perfume stayed in the air long after the door closed, and something about it made me feel replaced. Mia encouraged every bit of it. "Mom, you look amazing. You're glowing. Dad should be proud to see you like this." Proud? I wanted to be, but pride turned to worry and worry to quiet anger. Dinner became silent. Sonia scrolled her phone instead of talking. When I tried to speak, she gnawed without really listening. Mia began rolling her eyes whenever I asked simple questions. "Where are you going? When will you be back?" It wasn't just the words. It was the tone, that cold, distant tone that said, "You don't matter anymore." One evening, I came home early from work. Their laughter echoed from the living room. I stopped at the doorway before they noticed me. Mia was saying, "Mom, you've given Dad everything for years. It's time you live for yourself." Sonia smiled. That kind of smile people wear when they're already hiding something. When they saw me, the laughter vanished like it never existed. Sonia stood up quickly. "You're home early," she said, too casually. "Yeah," I replied, try to sound normal. "Missed dinner with my girls." She looked away. Mia busied herself with her phone. That night, while Sonia showered, I noticed her phone light up. A message appeared. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place. Jay." I stared at it for a long time, my heart thundering in my chest. I didn't know who Jay was, but I knew what I had just seen was the beginning of the end. I turned off the phone before she came out, pretending nothing had happened. But inside me, something had started to burn, slow, deep, and unstoppable. The message from Jay haunted me for days. Every time Sonia left the house, my mind raced with questions I didn't want answered. Who was he? How long had it been going on? Was it really happening? Or was I just imagining things? But the heart knows the truth long before the mind accepts it. One afternoon, Sonia forgot to take her laptop to work. The temptation to check it burned in me like fire. For years, I had never touched her things. I believed in trust. But now, that trust felt like a joke someone had played on me. With trembling hands, I opened her laptop. Her email was already signed in. At first, nothing unusual, receipts, newsletters, messages from clients. Then I saw a folder named Wellness Program. I clicked it. Inside were photos, not of yoga or workshops, but of her and a man I'd never seen before, smiling together, holding hands. In one picture, his arm rested around her waist. In another, she looked at him the way she used to look at me years ago. My chest went cold. I scrolled further. There were messages, too. You make me feel alive again. I can't stop thinking about you. He'll never understand this side of me. I stopped reading. I couldn't breathe. For 15 years, I gave her everything I had, my time, my patience, my love, and she gave that love to someone else. When she came home that evening, I couldn't look at her. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and went straight to shower, humming a song I didn't recognize. I sat there, staring at her laptop, trying to make sense of the woman I thought I knew. Later that night, I overheard me on the phone. Her voice was low, but clear. "Yeah, Mom finally did it," she said, laughing softly. "She's glowing again. It's about time." My hands went numb. My daughter knew. She knew everything, and she was happy about it. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. The betrayal wasn't just from my wife. It came from my own blood, the girl I had raised, the girl who once held my hand to cross the street. That was the night I stopped feeling hurt and started planning. The next few days passed in slow motion. Every sound in the house felt heavier. The clink of a spoon, the slam of a door, the echo of fake laughter between mother and daughter. I kept my secret, the photos, the messages, the truth. I said nothing. I just watched. I watched how Sonia avoided my eyes when she spoke. How Mia's respect for me had quietly disappeared. It was like living with two strangers who were the faces of my family. Then came Friday night, the night I decided I couldn't pretend anymore. Dinner was quiet. Only the ticking clock filled the silence. Sonia looked at her phone between bites. Mia scrolled through hers. I put down my fork slowly. "So," I said softly, "how's your wellness program going, Sonia?" Her hand froze midair. "It's fine." "Why?" "Because it looks like your trainer, Jay, is doing a great job. You look alive again." The color drained from her face. Mia's eyes shot up. "Dad, what are you talking about?" I looked at her. "Ask your mother." Sonia slammed her fork down. "You went through my things?" "I went through the remains of my marriage," I said quietly. The room fell silent. Mia's eyes darted between us. Sonia stood up, trembling but proud. "You don't understand, Daniel. I needed to feel like myself again. You stopped seeing me. You stopped making me feel like a woman." Her words stabbed deep, but I didn't flinch. "So you fixed it by finding another man?" She looked away. "He listened to me. He made me feel powerful. He reminded me I'm still a woman." Before I could answer, Mia spoke, her voice cold and sharp. "Dad, don't make this about you. Mom's just doing what she needs. It's her life." Her words hit harder than any slap. My daughter, the little girl who once ran to me after nightmares, now looked at me like I was a villain. I stood up slowly. My chair scraped against the floor. "You both wanted freedom," I said quietly. "You'll get it." Then I walked away. Behind me, Sonia shouted my name, but I didn't turn back. I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel fear or sadness. I felt something colder, something sharper. It wasn't pain anymore. It was purpose. After that dinner, I stopped being the man they could read. I spoke less, smiled rarely, and never asked questions. Silence became my shield. Sonia seemed relieved at first, thinking my calmness meant surrender. She laughed louder. stayed out later, and came home smelling cologne that wasn't mine. Mia ignored me completely, glued to her phone or whispered with her mother about new beginnings and positive energy. They thought I was broken. They didn't realize I was preparing. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of messages, printed photos, even a copy of hotel receipts Sonia had carelessly left in her bag. I met with a lawyer, a quiet man with sharp eyes. He listened to everything without emotion and said, "You have more than enough, Mr. Carter. When you're ready, we'll move." For the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I simply detached, stopped fixing things, stopped helping, stopped paying attention. I canceled the joint credit cards quietly, opened a new bank account, and started sending my salary there. Sonia barely noticed. She was too busy rediscovering her woman energy. One evening, they planned a weekend healing trip to a coastal resort. I nodded politely and even offered to drop them off. They laughed at my sudden kindness, completely unaware of what was waiting for them. On Friday morning, as they packed their bags, I handed Sonia a thick envelope. "You might need this," I said. She smiled, thinking it was money. When she opened it, the smile froze. Inside were the divorce papers, along with printed copies of her texts and photos with Jay. Her face turned pale. "Daniel, what is this?" "Freedom," I said quietly. "The thing you both wanted so much." Mia's voice trembled. "Dad, how could you do this? You're tearing the family apart." I looked at her, my little girl who had once been my pride. "No, Mia, I didn't tear it apart. You did when you told your mother to cheat." The room went silent. The truth hit harder than any argument could. Sonia's tears came fast, but they no longer moved me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. As they left the house, I watched from the window. For the first time, I didn't feel like the abandoned one. I felt free. That evening, I signed the final papers with my lawyer. When he asked if I wanted revenge beyond this, money, property, anything, I shook my head. "No," I said. "They've already punished themselves. I just need peace." He nodded, impressed by my calmness. Walking out his office, I felt lighter than I had in years. Revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about walking away without hate. And as I stepped into the cold night, I realized something powerful. They called it woman energy, but I had just found my own kind of strength, man's silence. The house felt empty after they left, quieter than I'd ever known it. At first, the silence cut deep like a wound that refused to close. But slowly, I realized that silence could also heal. Days turned into weeks. Papers were signed, lawyers made their calls, and the past became something written in ink, no longer alive. I moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't much, but it was peaceful. No shouting, no fake laughter, no secrets whispered behind doors. Meanwhile, life was not kind to Sonia. Through mutual friends, I learned that her healing partner, the man she had risked everything for, had moved on to someone new. Apparently, he wasn't interested in long-term love, just excitement. Sonia was left with guilt, loneliness, and a fading glow that no makeup could hide. Her so-called woman energy had burned out faster than a candle in the wind. Mia stayed with her mother for a while. I didn't reach out. I wanted her to see life for what it truly was, not the filtered version she had been fed online. Weeks later, she called me for the first time. Her voice was soft, shaky. "Dad, can we talk?" We met at a cafe near the river. She looked older somehow, tired, maybe wiser. "I'm sorry," she said, tears filling her eyes. "I thought I was helping Mom. I thought she needed freedom. But I ruined everything." I didn't scold her. I didn't remind her of what she'd said. I just placed my hand over hers and said, "Mia, sometimes people mistake destruction for empowerment. The real power is knowing when to protect what matters." She cried quietly, and for the first time in months, I saw my daughter again. Not the stranger who stood against me, but the child who still had a heart. We started meeting often after that. Small talks turned into long conversations, and forgiveness found its way between us. As for Sonia, she never called. Maybe she was too proud, or maybe too broken. Either way, I no longer waited for her voice, because by then, I had learned the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, losing everything is how you find yourself again. Months passed, and life slowly found its rhythm again. The pain didn't vanish overnight, but it softened, like an old scar that still aches when the rain falls. I began to live differently. Mornings were peaceful now. I made my own coffee, opened the windows, and watched the sun rise without rushing anywhere. I started my small repair business, honest work that kept my hands busy and my mind calm. I spoke to Mia often. She visited some weekends. We didn't talk about the past much. We didn't need to. Our silence was no longer heavy. It was healing. Sometimes, I'd see couples walking hand in hand, laughing, whispering. It used to hurt, reminding me of what I'd lost. But now, it reminded me of what I'd survived. I learned that love without respect is just decoration. It looks beautiful for a while, then crumbles from within. One evening, as I sat by the window, I came across an old family photo. Sonia, Mia, and I, smiling, happy, frozen in time. For a long moment, I stared at it. Then I placed it in the fireplace. The flames flickered, bright and soft, turning faces into light. I didn't burn it out of anger. I burned it to let go. As the picture turned to ash, I whispered. They called it woman energy. But true strength doesn't destroy the people who love you. It builds them. Outside, the sky was turning gold. For the first time in years, I smiled, not because I'd won, but because I'd finally understood. Revenge had never been about hurting them. It was about reclaiming myself. I no longer needed Sonia's apology or Mia's guilt or anyone's validation, because in the end, I found my own energy, not the kind that seeks power, but the kind that finds peace. And that, I realized, was the greatest revenge of all.